Welcome to Drawing on Spirit, a spiritual show that I've got going on. My name is Valerie Medina. Thank you very much for watching. I'm here today with Courtney Starkey, who is my teacher for Soul Empowering Hypnosis. Now I want to tell you a little bit about Courtney and what she has going on. Courtney Starkey is a trailblazer, creative innovator, and all-around disturber. Courtney is an award-winning hypnotherapist and master at her craft, having facilitated thousands of sessions during her decade-plus years of experience. Courtney has experience in 5 different modalities of hypnosis therapy and has created Soul Empowering Hypnosis, a truly exciting way to accelerate your life and find peace and happiness. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Her commitment to evolving and mastering innovative hypnosis methods is this process by which she developed her cutting-edge Advanced Performance Hypnosis and Soul Empowering Hypnosis techniques. She is currently completing a doctoral program at integral and transpersonal psychology.
It's a mouthful, I know.
At the California Institute of Integral Studies. She has a Bachelor of Arts in English from the University of Virginia, a master's degree in education from Marymount University, and her hypnosis training includes Life Between Lives with the Newton Institute, Past Life Regression with the Weiss Institute, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique and Quantum Healing Hypnosis Academy, developed by Dolores Cannon. And she's a certified master hypnotherapist. She's an author of a children's book and a book that started it all for me, The Cornflower, which is a biographical narrative of Courtney's journey through hypnosis that transformed her outlook on the human experience. And as her student, I can attest to her remarkable charisma and energy. She brings 100% of that energy to each and every class as a teacher of SEH and APH. I'm thrilled to have her with me today. So please welcome Courtney Starkey. Whoa. You forgot to play that song.
That was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
And then,
well, you know, you got a lot going on.
What's that?
You got a lot going on. I do.
Coincidentally, I have a copy, and I really didn't plan this.
I
was like, oh man, I'm seeing blue over here. I'm like, I have a copy where I can show people. So yeah.
Thank you so much for showing that. And also a children's book, which is really a sweet book for children. I love it. I think I have 2 or 3 copies. They're going out for Christmas this year.
That's so nice. That's really nice. Yeah, and a lot of people tell me recently that they purchased the children's books to share with like schools and libraries. And then I hadn't thought about this. One person mentioned that she knows of classrooms with students who are different, right? And so because the book so beautifully talks about how wonderful our differences are, that she's giving the classrooms that have those kids that are a bit different the book so that they can receive that message. I'm just like,
oh, that's
really sweet. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's start with a few basic questions about hypnosis. And so first of all, what first got you interested in trying hypnosis yourself? And what were your first hypnotherapy sessions like as a client?
Sure. So my very first exposure to hypnosis was actually learning about Brian Weiss. And then other than stage hypnosis, of course, at UVA during orientation week, when we all come back, they have a stage hypnotist. So I was aware of the concept in that regard. But then good old Oprah, she had Brian Weiss on her show, and he was talking about hypnosis in a totally different way. And luckily, I had already been exposed to the concept of reincarnation and past lives, and that you could access those memories. And so tying it all together, I realized, oh, there is this gentleman who has written this book, and it sounds really fascinating. And I really just wanted to learn a lot more about life. And why do we do the things that we do? Why are we even here to begin with? And so I got the book to have a better understanding about our lives, not necessarily to even know about hypnosis, but because hypnosis is the root of how all of that information came up, then I realized, oh my gosh, like I would love to be able to try hypnosis with him. And it turned out that not long after I bought and read the book, about a year and a half later, he ended up going to Hawaii, the only time he's ever gone to Hawaii, and he facilitated a group hypnosis event during the time that I lived there. And so that was actually my very first group hypnosis experience, was with Dr. Brian Weiss, which is pretty incredible to begin with. Yeah. So actually I have like 3 firsts. There's the first of listening to a recording on YouTube, but then there's the first group event. And then what he did at that group event is he introduced a really wonderful hypnotherapist who had trained with him the year prior. He had her stand up so we could all see her and we could all get her business card on the break. And I got her business card. And so I had a session with her about a week later. And so that was my very first one-on-one hypnosis session. That I'm happy to detail anything about the recording or the group or the one-on-one, anything that you want to know, just let me know.
And so your first session, other than that group hypnosis, when you found the lady in Hawaii, which was your first hypnotherapist,
Yeah.
She did a past life review with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and I still work with her. Like to this day, I have sessions with her. So whenever I go back to Hawaii to visit, I make sure that I have sessions with her. She's so amazing.
I'm interested in what particular lifetime came through in that.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite things about the very first past life is that, how everybody says like, oh gosh, let me guess, you were Cleopatra or, a princess or something. And I'm just like, no, what's actually really remarkable about that first past life is how mundane it was. Like it was, it's exciting to be able to access the past life. That in itself is pretty cool. But the details of the lifetime, rather boring. And what's interesting is I was telling this story to somebody a few days ago and was saying, and I want to back up just a little bit before I get to like the very cool reveal. What's really important for people to understand is that hypnosis works, and there's scientific data that backs that up. Hypnosis is highly effective. So if you really love the therapy that you're experiencing, you don't have to replace it with hypnotherapy. You can actually use hypnotherapy to supplement the other types of therapy that you're already enjoying. So you don't have to choose one or the other. Hypnosis is very good at supplementing and supporting and enhancing those good things that you're already experiencing from other types of therapy. So I just want to make sure that I say that. And so hypnosis is highly, highly effective, especially if you compare it to the other therapeutic options. And so for me, I had spent a full 5 years trying really hard every day to feel better. So I had an incident happen in 2008, and it made me realize that I really had to work on myself. Like it was black and white. I had to. And so I committed myself to really trying to improve, really trying to be happy. And so I read all of the self-help books. I did daily meditation. I changed my nutrition, my exercise. I went to talk therapy. I was really committed. I was doing all of the things, and I was doing it for a full 5 years, and I barely made a dent in how I was feeling. Was I a little bit happier? Sure, but not much. And then I had that hypnosis session, that past life regression. And that's what I think is so remarkable about it. It was a boring past life. It wasn't even very interesting, but I felt better at the end of the session. So after 5 years of trying so hard, after 50 minutes of a pretty boring hypnosis session, I actually felt significant improvement. And that's when I realized, like, oh my gosh, like this is nothing to write home about. It's fairly boring, but I feel better, and I need to try to do this again, because what if I can feel even better? And then I did. And then, I'm like, what if I do it again and I feel even better? And then I did. And so I started off as a client and I mean, it was working. So I felt like, okay, I need to keep doing this. And then the funny reveal that I was alluding to a moment ago. So I was telling this same story to somebody and she was like, oh, it was really boring. And I was like, it was so boring. And she was like, well, what kind of details? And I said, actually, the most exciting thing that came up during that session was that at one point, a little boy gave me a white rose. Right. And so that's not, I mean, that does not get the blood pumping. This is not an exciting thing. Right. And so I was saying that to her and I realized as I was telling her that, and I hadn't said the white rose detail in a really long time to anybody.
Yeah.
I realized that over on the table was a single white rose that a gentleman had given to me just a couple of days earlier. I was like,
Wow.
okay. Yeah, and then I told her that and she goes, nobody has ever given me a white rose. And I'm like, there's always hope. But yeah. So even though it was a really mundane past life, I felt so much better. And I like so much better that it's become my life's mission to help other people via hypnotherapy. That's how effective that was.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So now when you receive these first few hundred hypnosis sessions, because you talk about that in your book, in order to write the book, you had many hypnosis sessions.
Yeah.
And they were traditional, they were Brian Weiss type of, they were past life, all of them?
Yes and no. So with my style of hypnosis, Soul Empowering Hypnosis, and my practitioner's name is Jamie, I joke that she's actually the very first SEH practitioner. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I joke that is because even though obviously she hadn't trained in my style of hypnosis because it didn't exist yet, she was so good about letting me go off script. She was so good about letting the weird stuff that she had never seen, had never been exposed to, because she trained in past life regression. She thinks we're going into a human lifetime. We're going to see a couple of interesting things. Maybe somebody's head is going to get chopped off. And then we're going to say, do you want to heal? You know what I mean? Like this is what she thinks is going to be happening. Meanwhile, I am seeing things from other planets. I'm going into the spirit realm. I'm seeing a future life. Like I'm seeing all kinds of interesting things. And she was so calm, cool, and collected and let me go where I needed to go. Right. And so one of the reasons the SEH is such a wonderful hypnosis modality is because it's so client-centered. It really lets the client and the client's soul experience what is the priority rather than what the script is dictating happens next. And she was so good about allowing that. So there's some more detail as far as how helpful those sessions were and what the experience was like, even though she was technically just a past life regressionist, she really let the sessions become what they were meant to become.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And having that many sessions, can you talk a little bit about how that changed your life?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And well, it's funny too, because at a certain point you stop counting. I know with her, the number of sessions that get built into the content of the book, it was 26 sessions. And of course, like some sessions don't make it into the book because, you want it to be an interesting read. So you pull out the best stuff. But yeah, so through those 26 sessions, and then of course, like dozens, probably well over 100, I'm sure at this point. Are you wondering what the greatest impact has been?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would say probably the very first impact, and is also the greatest overall impact, is that I started to trust the universe. Yeah, because I did not have the easiest childhood, and I wasn't happy, right? And so I felt like life is hard, the world is hard, being me is hard.
People are mean.
Universe, yeah, it
Can't
was very
trust
like, this kind
anybody.
of sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it kind of sucks. And I've always been somehow, thank God, somehow I have always been an optimist to a degree. Like, even though I was like, man, this really blows, there was still this part of me that always thought, but it can get better. It can get better. It has to get better.
Or just
Right.
do this one thing, or if I do a few things.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I also wonder if it was part of growing up in such a challenging environment. And I had that hope of, I will be 18 one day. Like, I just need to wait for this better thing that I know for sure is coming. So
Right.
that may have been a key element in training my brain to go, you know what, the future is better. The future is better. Like, you're going to get there. The future is better. And so I just had that training for such a long time. And so knowing that I've always had that future paced, things can get better. But then if you weave in that, and that's what first got to me in that very first hypnosis session, that at the time I didn't know the words to describe it. Like, I didn't have the vocabulary to describe it. I do now, but yeah, that first impact and the overall best impact is being able to connect with the universal energy, the spirit realm energy, the soul energy, and feeling that, and you just know that everything is really is okay. Like, not only is it gonna be okay, it really is already okay. And you get to feel that love and support of those teammates that consciously you didn't even know existed. And so even though that first session was very boring, white rose, you know, how does that like connect you to I was subconsciously starting that connection to my soul and to the spirit realm and to the universe. Again, I didn't have any clue that's what was happening. Definitely didn't have the vocabulary for it, but it's what was occurring. And that's why inexplicably, somehow I was feeling better. It's really that simple.
I can attest to the also the feelings of unconditional love that I felt on my very first and second session. It was so overwhelming and emotional for me to feel this kind of love that I had never felt in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And it was such an incredible experience that, you know, of course I wanted to do it again. But I knew deeply that there was some kind of innate lesson in that, understanding and connecting. And there's, you know, it's feeling like you belong,
Yeah.
you know, in an incredible way.
Yeah.
So I don't want to talk too much about my experience because
No, I love that because you know what? I really like that you are talking about your experience, because it would be so easy for somebody watching this to go, I'm so happy for you, Courtney. That's so great that happened for you. I wish that could happen for other people. And you are right now saying like, this is actually a more common occurrence than not.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually a very common experience and side effect that happens. So I love that you are saying, yes, me too. And then everybody who's watching can go, oh, and me too. Yes, you too. Like, you can do this too. Yeah.
So going now from a person who does hypnosis, goes to hypnosis therapy, receives this form of therapy, then when you became a facilitator, how did that change? What sorts of things happened to you as a facilitator?
Okay, so I love the journey of going from client to practitioner, because this story tickles me every time, because I tend to be very self-aware. Like, I'm always thinking, I'm always, you know, analyzing, I'm always doing this and that. And so the fact that I became a practitioner actually was not my decision. I did not know I was going to become a practitioner. So what I did, I knew that I was about to move from Hawaii back to Northern Virginia, and I had only X number of weeks and only X number of sessions with my hypnotherapist, because I would have a session with her every week. And it was it was life for me. Like life was really very rapidly improving for me. And so I was like, I just got to soak it in. But then I knew I'm about to leave Hawaii. These sessions are going to stop. I need to do something to make sure that I am able to re-immerse myself in this energy. And so Brian Weiss, the original, right? So I went to his website and I was like, I wonder if he's doing any group events somewhere on the mainland. I wonder. And then I found out he actually had the training opportunity. So it's not that you go into this beautiful experience for just a handful of hours on one day. You can actually go into this beautiful experience, depending on which package you pick. You could do it for 5 days or 7 days. I went with 7. I was like, hit me. Like I want all 7 days of this.
And your intention was just to receive the sessions.
Yes.
Okay.
So because the 5-day or 7-day workshop, the reason it's so long is because people are training to become a practitioner. But he's very smart and he lets people who have no intention of becoming a practitioner also sign up, because those who are becoming certified in his past life regression methods, they need people to practice on, right? So I'm just like, this is the best thing ever. Are you telling me I can receive hypnosis sessions multiple times per day for 7 days in a row? Like, yes, I am in. So signed up very quickly. But again, assuming I would be in the client role exclusively. And then something happened where over the next couple of days, weeks, months, I really don't know how long it was from when I registered to when my brain started thinking about it and talking about it as though I was going as a practitioner. And I was just like, what is this? And you know how it is whenever you're channeling your own soul, where you're saying the words and then part of you hears what you're saying. And I'm like, why am I talking about this as though I'm going as a practitioner? But then it felt so right. And I was like, I guess this is what I'm doing now. And it was such a great experience too. Is it okay if I tell the story about the first time that I practiced on someone?
Yes.
I love this story so much. It's so great. So I get to this event and there is this wonderful lady there who still refers clients to me. And this is years ago. This is almost a decade ago. And she's still referring clients to me. That's how amazing this was for both of us. So I'm sitting next to this really nice girl. And she's like, oh, I have never been able to go into a past life. I've tried everything. I've done one-on-one sessions. I've done group events. Like this feels like a last resort that I've come in here for days in a row just to try to make sure that I can go into a past life. And so I told her, I was like, hey, like I'm taking this to become a practitioner. And so I said to her, I was like, you know what, like, let's practice. Can you be my first practice client? Because I have nothing to lose. Like if it doesn't work, and you can't go into a past life, it's not actually going to hurt my ego or my self-esteem at all because you weren't able to do it.
Anybody else? Yeah, give it a shot. Like a shot.
I'm like, this is perfect. I can practice and there's nothing at stake. But then amazingly, it worked. She was able to go into her very first past life ever. And I'm just like, holy crap, it's working. And so my confidence, my self-esteem just skyrocketed where I was like, hold on. So I could actually first time out, get somebody who could never do this before. I'm like, we're onto something. And then one thing that I mentioned in the level 1 SEH curriculum is that I firmly believe that the best training to become a really good hypnotherapist is to be on the client side a lot, because you can really help people so much better if you've been on the client side, because then you understand what they're experiencing. And one of the reasons that first session that I ever facilitated in my entire life went so well is because I had already been a client so many times that when she was going into a pretty challenging past life, she went into a past life as an American pre-Civil War slave. So it was not an easy one that we went into. That's what she went into. It was pretty challenging. I had been a client so many times and had experienced my own challenging past life memories that it felt very natural and easy and organic to be able to help her through that, even though it was technically my first time as a practitioner. So that's one of the things that I love about SEH is that, yes, you're getting to practice a lot, on your classmates, but you're also receiving sessions from your classmates. So then you become even better while your life is also getting better because you're receiving so many hypnosis sessions. So yeah, that's one of the reasons that it went so swimmingly well during that very first practice client.
I have to tell you that as a level 1 student, I was shocked that I did not know that I was going to have to conduct and facilitate a session. And so that for me was the scariest part. It wasn't receiving a session because I was part of your membership. So I had received some group sessions, but yeah, I was totally shocked that I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to do this. And you're just thinking about how you're going to do your voice and present your voice. And I remember reading this, you're doing it with the script in front. It was crazy, but it was so good because my client, fellow student, went right in. It was just so, I can remember those first three classes. Yeah. Being done from class and feeling totally exhilarated because I had received a session and I had given a session and my confidence was growing too. I was feeling so fantastic at the end, at the end of each class. It was just great. My experience with level 1 was off the charts. And I too started your class without knowing I was going to be a facilitator. Didn't have the intention.
Wait, you didn't know that you're going to be facilitating sessions at all, or you didn't know you're going to facilitate a session on the first day?
I didn't know I was going to be doing it on the first day.
Okay.
I thought we were going to learn and then we were going to do it maybe on the third week or something like that. But I also didn't know I was going to want to facilitate it by the second or third session class. I was like, I want to do this for people. This is it, man. Also because for me spiritually, I opened up to my channel in a very profound way that felt comfortable. And even though I'd been doing it all my life, it felt comfortable within this setting. It felt safe. So that's for me, the whole thing with channeling happened. And I know that it's happened with other classmates of mine. So anyway, that's kind of another video.
I know, right? Yeah, we're full of very good content. Well, one thing that makes me so happy about Soul Empowering Hypnosis, and for those who are watching and they're like, oh, there was a live class. There used to be live classes. Valerie got in on the very last time I was ever teaching it live.
And I signed up. That was
now, you're very smart. And what we have now is everything is pre-recorded and on demand. But I'm just going to go ahead and pat myself on the back. I've done a really good job of blending pre-recorded content and a lot of live support. So we have the monthly mentorship meetings. We also have the monthly mastermind student support meetings in the WhatsApp groups. So there's always that very live engagement where people can get a lot of support as they're first going through the pre-recorded content and facilitating their very first sessions. Also, the brand new students who are going through the pre-recorded content, they always have their very first sessions with people who are graduates of level 1 or level 2 already. So they're already partnering with somebody who knows what they're doing. So there's a mentorship capacity that happens as well. So I just want to make sure that those who are watching now, if they're like, how do I do a live class? Level 3 is live. So you'll definitely get that like big deep dive engagement of a live class for sure. But in the beginning, it's really self-paced, which is nice because you can go as slow as you want to. You can also go as fast as you want to. And you could be taking the class at 10 p.m. at night or 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is that's working well for you.
Yeah.
You have more flexibility in your schedule. But there's one more thing that I want to say about this as far as like how user-friendly Soul Empowering Hypnosis is. So it's really, really profound. It's changing so many people's lives. But it's also very straightforward where you don't need to be a professional hypnotherapist to train in this style of hypnotherapy. You really can know nothing about hypnosis. If you have heard the
See,
word hypnosis one time ever in your whole life, like it's fine. And it's because the materials, pat myself on the back again, are so well done. My master's degree is in education, right? Like this is my passion. This is all I do. I eat, sleep, and breathe hypnosis, whether it's as a practitioner, or as a client, or as an instructor now. Like this is all I do. And so I've done a pretty good job of making the materials and the scripts so user-friendly that people who are brand new to it are having a lot of success, which is really remarkable. And then the final funny thing that I want to say about that is this is before you took the final class, Valerie. So a few cohorts before you, somebody signed up and she really didn't know she was going to be signing up as a practitioner at all. She really thought she was just going to be signing up as a client, because I always talk about you get to receive sessions as a client as well. She wasn't realizing that on the other side of that was that you're a practitioner as well. And so she came to the first class and she was like, wait, am I also facilitating a hypnosis session? I was like, yeah, girl, everybody is. It's a session swap. And we went on bathroom break. She printed off the script, had never seen it before, facilitated it. And at the end of it, she goes, you have the best job in the world. This was amazing. I'm like, I know.
you know, that's exactly what I thought too. I thought,
Yeah.
wow, this is so cool. It just changed my life.
Yeah.
It really did. So how did these sessions that you had blossom into SEH? How did that, oh, yeah, the only word to me, it's SEH is kind of like a flower. Well, hey, look, you wrote that book about the flower.
Cornflower, and the children's book is Flower Friend. It has that flow. And I asked the universe one day when I finally realized, why do both my books have the word flower in them? And they said, pay attention, flow. Flow helps you open up and blossom into a flower. And I'm like, well done, universe. I like it. But yeah. So SEH really has been like a flower where it's this organic development. Yeah, they say that you don't need to rush things. You can have patience because everything happens in its own time. Like the acorn becomes the oak tree, right? So SEH has that same organic quality to it. And I love the origin story of SEH because it really was one of those things where it just started happening in front of me and started developing itself because I'm paying attention to all of the things that my clients are experiencing. I care very much about the client's experience. This has changed my life so much. Like, I'm not sure I would still be on this planet if I hadn't experienced hypnosis. Like, I don't know how long I would have stayed. So I owe my life to hypnosis and I've dedicated my life to hypnosis, right? And so I really care about the client's experience because that was my original experience as the client. And so I pay attention to what is working well for them the vast majority of the time, so I can start to use these techniques and these methods that just organically over the course of facilitating so many sessions, I can see, oh, in general, this, you hit a brick wall. But in general, if you do this, it actually opens up. Okay, in general, if they are in a stuck place, this technique tends to really unlock things. Right. So it's just a lot of trial and error, right? But then also,
can you give a little example of what a block might be? So say you're hypnotizing me and you ask me, what would you ask me a question about?
I got it. I can tell you. You ready? So let's say that it's the early part of the induction, right? Yeah. And we invite in a warm, loving being with wings. And so what I've learned is that a lot of clients don't realize that they're having an experience because it's something, what happens is something that they're not expecting. And what I mean by that is we invite in a warm, loving being with wings and they're expecting like a bright butterfly or, you know, a funny bird. They're expecting something very overtly visually to be showing up that is the thing that we just asked for. And does that happen a lot of times? Yes. But I always like, no, yes, a lot of times it does, but a lot of times it doesn't because something different will happen. Like you might end up hearing wisdom from
Yeah.
that friend that has come in. You might, and then, yeah. And so, yeah, so thankfully, at least they're registering that something is happening. But a lot of times they think that they're experiencing nothing when what they're actually experiencing is an interesting color has started to come in, or movement within the blackness of their eyes closed starts to happen. But nobody tells you in these books, nobody says, if a color comes in, that's a spirit friend and it wants to send you energy. Like, nobody knows that. So they're perceiving that as a nothing experience. And sometimes it doesn't have colors. Sometimes it's just more like energy movement in the blackness. And so they're really not perceiving that as something. Sometimes not even that is happening. No colors, no movement. Instead, what's happening is that the palm of their hand is starting to get really warm, or their thigh is starting to twitch. Nobody is perceiving that as an experience that's really, really valuable. But over the years, I have learned that the colors are very powerful. The energy movement is very powerful. The body wisdom is very powerful. And so people don't realize that there are these very easy ways to ask the right questions to unlock something that was already happening, but the client just didn't realize something very, very powerful and helpful was starting to occur, but they just don't know, right? And actually, to be honest, a lot of practitioners don't know either. A lot don't. And so that's another reason that SEH is so helpful and so valuable, is because, again, what's the best training? To be a client. The only reason I know that those colors and those energy movements mean something is because I experienced them so many times on the client side, that when my clients start to experience it, I understand what they are experiencing. I know that the color gray, like a flat color gray, is almost always a block. And the only reason I know that is because I've seen that color gray so many times in my own sessions when I'm getting blocked. And I also know ways to surmount that, right? So yeah, so there are so many techniques that can help with a wide variety of blocking. I'll give one more example really quickly. Sometimes a session will stall, right? So like it's been going, it's a good session, like it's great, everybody's really happy, and then just nothing, right? And so there are so many really helpful techniques to be able to kickstart what was an active session and suddenly has stalled, because usually, almost always, what's happened is we have accidentally neglected something important that still needed to be addressed during the most recent time the activity was happening. We think it's complete, we move on to another topic, and the universe is like, oh no, you don't. Get yourself back over here. That is unfinished business. And so sometimes people don't realize, like, there are very easy ways to get it going again. And that's an easy example of how to reactivate a really good session.
And that's what you would do. You would ask the person to go back to where it was working, where, wherever the visualization was, under the waterfall, or wherever it was that they were seeing or experiencing.
Right, exactly. And then just that simple question of, and you're very familiar with this question now, so many times the client will say, I'm experiencing nothing. And then I'll say, is it okay if I ask a really silly question? And then I'll say, I know that you're saying that you're experiencing nothing, but can you tell me what you are experiencing? Like any body sensations, any energy movement, any colors, anything else? Like, what are you experiencing? And almost always, when they realize that the menu is a lot broader than what they had originally expected, they're like, oh, well, in fact, and they're actually having a great experience. They just weren't registering it as such. And then every now and then it really is just the neutral blackness of having their eyes closed. It really is nothing, but we have so many great scripts to help take them into, okay, all right, great. So from this nice neutral place, let's go ahead and go even deeper. And then you can reactivate it from a greater hypnotic depth.
I think that, what would you say to someone who said to you, oh, that sounds scary?
Which part?
Well, like, say you were telling someone, oh, this is what I do. I'm a hypnotherapist and I conduct soul empowering hypnosis, and where you can connect with your soul and your team of guides. And what if someone says to you, that sounds scary?
I think the first thing I would say is which part sounds scary, because everybody has a different reason. So some people are going to say, well, I don't want to lose control, right? Others will say, I'm afraid that I'm going to see something bad. Others will say, I'm afraid I'm going to find out that I am bad.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Like they're afraid that if they do some digging into themselves, that it's going to be bad news on the other side. I'm telling you right now, everybody who's listening, it's good news on the other side. Now, what might happen is there might be something sad or scary that happens during the session. And so, of course, everybody who's trained in SEH knows how to beautifully navigate those waters where you can help people to experience and or feel as much or as little as what they want to experience. And so if they have expressed that fear to me, then I'm very overt in telling them, I'm going to go in there as deeply as you want, but this is your session. And if you want to instead either just bounce, like leave it entirely and go into a different memory, a different area of the spirit realm, a different topic, like we will absolutely abandon that if you want to, but there are other ways to address it so that you can hover above the scene, so that you can still learn from the experience, but not feel it. And then I always tell them, and I know how much healing is on the other side of this. So if you want to feel it fully and go all the way in, please know that I am on board and I will be here for you. And so they have that variety of options. And then another thing that's so cool that started happening in the last few years is there used to be this notion that you had to go through the traumatic experience to be able to heal it. The universe, again, because somebody's experienced a lot of hypnosis, I actually take myself into hypnosis now. And I learned this from the universe a couple of years ago, where I was asking a question about something that had been plaguing me for a while. And the universe started to offer me healing for it. And I said, but I need to know the origin. I need to know the details. I need to know that, because I thought that's what you had to know to be able to clear these things. Like you had to know the origin, you had to know the details. And my team said to me, the universe team, my team said to me, do you need to know the details or do you want the healing? I was like, well, the healing. And they said, you don't need to know all of the details. Let us just give you the healing. I was like, this is so efficient. Yes. Yeah, I just want the healing. Great. And so a lot of people who are very afraid of traumatic experiences, we can also let them know that is a very possible option that the universe might go, you don't need to know any of it.
right.
Just heal it for you.
I think especially some of us who've experienced trauma in childhood and still suffer from those experiences, and how they come up in adulthood with our relationships and things like that, and still causing us real pain. You don't want to think about that in terms of, oh, what does that really mean about me? Or, you don't want to relive that hurtingness. And it would be
And then let me just say really quickly, even if something tough does come in, and it does come in sometimes, if you stick with it, there is something so beautiful on the other side. Like I've been doing this for a long time. The universe is going to give you what you can handle. And there is such an amazing, life-changing reward on the other side of that in only a handful of minutes. Like the ability to change your entire life in a handful of minutes is amazing. And so sometimes that harder version of things is the way to get there for some clients in some situations. And it's worth it. It's worth it. Like I had a client one time and she was coming to me because she had felt really, really abandoned in her life. Parents, sibling, fiance, like really abandoned by basically everybody. And so we're starting to have the session. It's in the early part of the session. And her team, I can't even remember the exact details, but it was something to the effect of they either weren't answering her or they were there, but they were leaving. And she was like, is it okay if I swear?
Yeah.
She was like, fuck this. Like I have so much abandonment happening in my life. And now I'm in a hypnosis session and now I'm getting abandoned again. What the fuck is this? And by the way, it's just the most like beautiful, sweetest girl, but she had enough. She was like, what the fuck is this? This is the antithesis of what I was hoping would happen in the session. And she sat up. I was like, she's about to leave. Like she is about to like walk out of this session. I said to her, I was like, just wait. I was like, I trust them so much. Could you just humor me and just like wait and just see what is it that they're up to so we can understand, so we can help you. And she was like, okay, fine. Like, I'll give them a chance. I was like, thank you. Thank you. Like, just, just take a few thousand deep, relaxing breaths. Like, and let's find out, like, let's do the detective work and find out what is it that they are trying to help you with. And then she has since, by the way, amazing session, of course. And she has since become a repeat client where she's like, I need to do this again. I'm like, yes, thank you for not walking out that session. So yeah. So even when the harder stuff does come in, it's purposeful and it is so worth navigating it to find out what's on the other side.
And what was on the other side of that? Why did it feel like abandonment? Do you remember? And I mean, I have a theory, but
I'm not going to commit to this is 100% right. My memory is better than normal when I'm facilitating a session. Like my memory is crazy good when I'm facilitating a session. Like I can keep every thread open and like 45 minutes can pass and I'll go back to an unaddressed thread, like no problem. It's wild how good my memory is. But once the sessions are over, it's a lot like a dream where the next day I don't remember them that well. So I'm not certain that this is the answer, but just intuitively, this is what's coming in. And I'm pretty sure that it was to show her perception of being abandoned when she wasn't. So like she was perceiving that her team was abandoning her in that moment, but let it play out a little bit, get some more perspective and some more experience. And then you find out like, oh, that perception, what you thought was happening was not actually accurate. You just needed more information. You needed another viewpoint. And so it helped her to go from, oh, wait, I wasn't actually abandoned in that session, to be able to apply that to her everyday life and go, maybe I'm not abandoned in my real life either.
it's all about perspective. Yeah.
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 Picking up.
When you said, can you hear me?
Yeah. I thought that you were also intuiting an answer. So I was just asking, what were you intuiting?
Well, 10 minutes ago, when you were talking about the life changes, the big life changes, and I picked up on, it's really all, the life changes are really not that your life changes, but rather your perspective and how you view the hardships and the traumas that you've had. What you understand is the bigger soul picture, the bigger team picture, the bigger path picture. Because I've had some hardships recently, and I wouldn't be on this path if I hadn't had those hardships. I wouldn't have changed my perspective in life and started loving myself, for instance.
I'm a big deal. Yeah. Well, and also because we're talking about this one particular client, she is reminding me to say a couple of other things, if it's okay with you, that if I go off script a little bit, SEH style, and just honor what's coming in. So what cracks me up about her also, and she's a teacher, I'm realizing in this moment, she is a great teacher because she has given so many crystal clear examples where it's very easy to help other people understand what they might be concerned about via what she was concerned about, but then lived it and was like, actually, that was okay. Like everything turned out fine. So how I mentioned that she's a repeat client, right? And so this was back when I was living in Northern Virginia. She's from DC. And so she would come in, have her sessions, and then she found out I was moving back to Hawaii. And so she said to me, she was like, oh, bummer. Like, I love having these sessions with you. They're so great. I wish that I could continue to have them. And I said to her, there's this thing called Zoom. And you can have your sessions on Zoom And then she goes, I know you say it's the same, if not better, but it really feels like the session should be in person. You know, I just got to follow my gut on this one. She was like, I'm more likely to actually fly out to Hawaii to have a session with you than to do Zoom. And I was like, hey girl, any excuse to go to Hawaii. I get it. And so and that's where we left it. Right. And then she is the only client who's ever sent me a message like this. A few months later, I get an email that's titled SOS. I was like, what? Like nobody ever sends me SOS messages. And so I click into it and she goes, I am really close to getting fired and I have to have a session. And she was like, I don't care about it being on Zoom. No, because what was happening is, you know how sometimes if you mess up, then even though you try to make sure that you get everything right, you try to pay attention to details, that you're so anxious about it, you actually create more opportunity to mess up because your anxiety is starting to take over. And so that's what happened to her. She's so brilliant that she messed up one thing by accident and it just spiraled her. And then she ended up messing up more important things after that. And her boss was like, this cannot continue. And she was like, I'm going to get fired. And so we log on to Zoom, we have the session. The first thing that she says as she opens her eyes is she goes, that was even better than in person. She was like, that's our best session we've ever had. I was like, I don't mean to say I told you so, but so yeah. So she's a great example also of resisting Zoom and then becoming a believer very quickly.
Can you tell me real quick, because I know we're running out of time.
Yep.
How did this new, you have recently developed this new form of hypnosis. It's an additional one called Advanced Performance Hypnosis. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And what types of individuals would that be helpful for?
Sure. Yeah. And it actually reminds me, talk about an open thread, to circle back to something we were going to talk about earlier, which was the origin story of SEH. So it feels perfect to talk about the origin story of SEH and then the origin story of APH, Advanced Performance Hypnosis. So I'll keep it really quick. So the origin story for Soul Empowering Hypnosis, SEH, was that I was actually doing a lot of preparatory reading for getting my MHT. And as part of that preparatory reading, there was this one sentence in there that said that not every client needs a lengthy induction. And I had been trained in, past life regression, QHHT, life between life, and all of those inductions are really long, between like 25, 35 minutes. Like it's a very long time. And so it makes you have these really, really long sessions. And you don't get as much hypnosis because the induction is so long, you don't get as much hypnosis, right? And so I remember being on the receiving end of these longer inductions and my spirit guides kind of cartoonishly, like wrapping, like my primary spirit guide is a hawk. And I remember him coming in one time and cartoonishly wrapping his talons against a fake table to say that he was very bored with the induction. And so, quietly in my own mind, I had to say like, I know, like they're really long, but it'll be done soon. And then we can get going. It was like, oh my God, any day now. I'm like, I know. And so I thought I was the only one that was bored by these long inductions and just politely waiting for my hypnotherapist. But again, wide variety of hypnotherapists. I'm not talking about Jamie. Jamie, like she cranks through it actually. These are my classmates in these other styles that I've been training in. And these inductions are just so long, but you're taught that it's necessary. You're taught that it's an absolute must to be able to get them to that place of depth so that they can have a fruitful session. So everybody's heart is in the right place. Everybody believes that that's what's needed. But man, that book, that one sentence, not everybody needs it. And I knew I didn't need it. And so in the same handful of days that I'm having this epiphany, I have a client lying on the couch and she was typically very verbose. And so I say to her, the first sentence of a very long induction that you're told that you need, it's mandatory, And the first sentence is, if I were to say to you to see a red bird, could you see one for me? Right? Because you're kickstarting the visualization process and all of that. And so she's quiet and she's quiet and she's quiet. And then eventually she finally says, I am trying to see the red bird and I cannot see it through all of the purple. It's like, oh my God, she's in. That was one sentence and she's in. And so imagine like a cartoon, me just picking up the script, like chucking it out the window. And I was like, we got to go. Like, I can't sit here and go, great, great, great. Glad you're in the spirit realm. I need to go back to asking these questions to get you to the place where you already are. And so I just chucked it and I was like, tell me what the purple feels like. Right? Like, let's just find out what are you experiencing? Yeah. And so knowing that it wasn't just me, that other clients benefit from the rapid version of things as well, but then also that client gifting me in that moment a 100% script-free session. I couldn't use any more of the script. It was done. Like the script, like I had no use at that point. And so I was gifted a 100% free flow session where I just had to navigate and flow with what was happening. And I was like, that was actually so much more productive than trying to say, no, we have to do step 1, then step 2, then step 3, which does work for some clients, but it doesn't work for a lot of clients. And you're just trying to jam them into this direction of 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's not what's going to work for them. So I got to watch, what is it like when there is no 1, 2, 3, 4? You're really just dancing with the universe in that moment. What are these sessions like? They're a lot more productive. They're a lot more healing. You find out so much more than you ever had the aim of even knowing, because the universe is in charge, their soul is in charge. So you find out so much more. So that's the origin story of Soul Empowering Hypnosis, because that's what we're doing in that moment. We're not empowering the script. We're not empowering the practitioner. We're really empowering the soul to help make that session the best possible session it can be for that client. Okay. Do I talk about APH now, or do you have any follow-up questions about SEH?
No, that was a beautiful explanation. I actually hadn't heard that explanation quite that way before. I loved it. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. You bring it out in me.
Huh.
So do you want me to tell you about APH?
Yes.
Okay. So the origin story of Advanced Performance Hypnosis is I was noticing that there was a bit of a gap in SEH. And so SEH is amazing and is really, really helpful to people. And it will help you know your purpose, your mission. It'll connect you to your soul. It'll give you a lot of guidance. Like it's a lot of amazing supportive energy. It's really, really a wonderful style of hypnosis. There was this one gap, which is the taking action piece, where everybody was getting all of the supportive energy and all the helpful information and, you know, their soul's name and color and bonding and hugs and love, and their lives were feeling really, really improved and better, but not everybody was actually doing the stuff that their team was like, if you do X, Y, and Z, your life is going to get better. And then in the session, they're like, yay, that's so wonderful. But then you open your eyes and you're back into the physical realm and you're like, oh, now that I'm not in the spiritual realm, this is actually feeling a little sticky, right? Like, oh, I actually have to make time for this. Oh, I actually have to do a thing that I've never done before, which inspires some procrastination, some fear, some, you know, there are all of these excuses.
Yeah, lack of focus.
Yeah, where we know exactly what to do and we don't do it. So that inexplicable, like, why aren't you doing the thing that you know you should be doing? So APH, Advanced Performance Hypnosis, is the thing that really focuses, has all of that same supportive energy of, you know, getting your guidance, getting helpful energy, finding out all of those wonderful things that SEH brings to the table as well, but really, really focuses on the, we're doing it. Like, we're not talking about this, you're going to be doing this. So it really helps the people with incorporating, actively taking action of what's happening in the session into their own lives. Another thing that's really great about APHV SEH is that there are plenty of people in the world who want to experience the benefits of hypnosis who are not spiritual, right? So they see the words soul empowering hypnosis. They're just like, great, have a good day, hippies. But they would benefit so nicely from advanced performance hypnosis because you can still connect with your own subconscious wisdom, right? We all have intuition. We all have gut feelings. We all have the subconscious awareness, this knowing that is living so richly within us. And we just need to be able to access it, right? So this helps them to know how to access that beautiful wisdom that was already within them. And we don't have to have all of the woo-woo terminology that turns off.
You don't have to call it soul. You can call it inner wisdom.
Exactly, because it is. And I
Mhm.
have people who ask me sometimes, they're like, how do you know that soul empowering hypnosis is real? Like, how do you know there are really spirit guides and there are really past lives and there's really all this? I tell them, like, genuinely, I don't know anything. I don't know anything for sure. And that includes all of this, is that I'd be willing to bet large sums of money that it is real. Like, I do believe that it's real, but I don't know that for sure. And so I just say to them, I'm like, and they're like, what if the person's making it up? And I'm like, they very well could be. Do I think they are? No, I don't. I believe it's real, but they very well could be. And the beauty in that means that if you are making it up, then you have the ability to change your life in such a significant way. Who gives a shit if you're making it up? Like, you feel better. Like, you are living a much better life as a result of it. And so I'm like, yeah, I just care if they feel better. Do I think they're making it up? No, I do think that it's real. But ultimately, at the end of the day, all I really care about is, do they feel better? That's it. So, yeah.
That was a great way to end our session. Thank you so much. It's a really, really informative, and I loved it. Love to be here with
Me
you
too.
today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I will